In this video, I will give you a very quick overview of the user interface in Grasshopper. And I will also show you how I set up Grasshopper, and I would encourage you to set it up in a similar way so you can follow along more easily with this video tutorials. To open Grasshopper, we can simply type Grasshopper into our command input in Rhino, or we can go to the Tools tab up at the top and select Grasshopper from the list. Then you will have this window pop up, the Grasshopper window, and I would encourage you to set it up in a similar way that I do here. Half of the screen for Grasshopper, the other half for our Rhino preview. If you have a second monitor, of course, it's a lot better to have a full monitor for Grasshopper and a full monitor for Rhino. But yeah, make sure that you're comfortable with your setup and that you can have two windows that are large enough for you to work in. Now, in Grasshopper, you will have this empty canvas with our components at the top, as well as some tabs up top that allow you to see more components. You will probably not have as many tabs as I have because some of these tabs are from certain plugins, but we will only use the basic tabs that you see on the left here. To navigate over our canvas, we can hit the right mouse button and simply drag. We can zoom in and out with our mouse wheel, and also wherever our mouse is pointed, this is where we are zooming into. So if you want to zoom to a specific location, point your mouse there and then zoom in and out. Our canvas is basically infinite. However, there is this top left corner that is there as a good guide for our orientation, and we should make sure that we start our definitions around this area here, so that we have, when we open our definition, we know this is where it starts, and we don't need to scroll and search for our components. So to set up Grasshopper, I will simply add a component, and I will add a create circle component, and I can do this by either finding this component. It's under the curve tab. However, I will simply double click onto the canvas and the search bar will pop up, and then I can enter circle. And as you can see, there are sometimes multiple components with the same name. I will choose the one with this orange icon, and then this should be placed on the canvas, and you can also see a preview in your Rhino viewport. Your component that was placed might look slightly different, and I would encourage you to set it up in a similar way that I've set it up here, with the full names for the inputs and outputs, and for the full name as our label for the component. And to do this, you can simply go to Display and deselect the Draw Icons option and activate the Draw Full Names option. If you don't draw the full names, the components might be more compact and your definitions might look less cluttered. However, it's often quite confusing because it's not always obvious that cir means circle, and sometimes the inputs and outputs have the same letter for different kinds of outputs. So P is not always for plain, it might also stand for point or parameter, and so if we draw the full name, then we know exactly what our inputs and outputs mean. Grasshopper components always have their inputs on the left and their outputs on the right. And we always go from left to right in Grasshopper. Now, our circle currently has a radius of 1. You can see this by hovering over any of the inputs and outputs, and you will see what is currently set there, and the default value for the radius is 1. So I will add a panel and select a different value for it. I can do this by double clicking on the canvas again and simply entering panel, and there I can double click, enter a number. Then I don't want to hit enter because they will just create a new line. Instead, I want to simply left click out of this panel, and then I have my panel set with my input, and I can start connecting this panel with our radius input of the circle. And to do this, I simply go to the output, this white half circle, and click and drag towards the radius input of the circle component. And now, as you can see in our Rhino preview, our circle has a much larger radius now. If I want to deselect or disconnect, sorry, two components again, I can either left click on an input, right click, sorry, and select the disconnect option from the menu, and then the components are disconnected. Or when they are connected, I can basically connect them again, but hit Control, or if you're on a Mac, hit Command, and then you will see that the icon next to the cursor changes to a red line and a minus sign up top. And then if you connect something, it will basically disconnect the two components. I can copy components by simply doing Control C and Control V, or Command C and Command V on a Mac. I can delete them by selecting them and then hitting Control X or Command X to delete the components. I will copy and paste the circle component, and I will connect both of them to this panel. And so you can always have multiple inputs can get their data from the same output. And if I want to change an output with multiple destinations, so for example, if I have a panel here that has a different value, for example, the value 200, I can hit Command and Shift or Control and Shift and simply drag multiple wires at the same time. The last thing that I will show you is relays, because you will probably find them by accident sooner or later. If you double click on a line, so for example, you're trying to open the search bar again, but you double click on a line, you will find this gray component here. And this is a relay. This is basically just a helpful addition for you to maybe have a bit cleaner wires, because it doesn't do anything by itself. It doesn't change the data, or it doesn't modify the data. Keep the wires clean. And for example, instead of having to have two wires that go from an input to an output to an input, you can basically have just one connection for most of the distance, and then have a relay to split the connection up again. The last thing that I want you to change is to go into your view settings and to activate obscure components. This is just a small settings that adds a few more components to this top bar here, because otherwise we will only have the basic components, and to access the other ones you will need to open the drop down. However, we usually have enough space to also add the obscure components, so we can it's a bit easier, and we have a bit more components to choose from without having to go into the drop down menus. If we want to place a component from the component bar up top, we can simply select one, click, and then click again on our canvas to place it. There are different ways of previewing our geometry that we create in Grasshopper in Rhino. To demonstrate this, I will simply add a sphere component, and you can find this under the Surface tab, and under the Primitive section there will be a sphere component that we will place on our canvas, and I will simply use this panel with the value 100 as my radius, and there you can see we created this sphere that is previewed in red. If I select the component, you can see the preview changes to green, so everything that is that I select in Grasshopper gets basically highlighted, but this only happens if our preview is activated. So if we are in our basically our normal way of previewing previewing Grasshopper geometry, every component that we place is automatically previewed. However, we can right-click and we can disable our preview by right-clicking onto the label or the icon of our component and then deselecting preview. And so now you can see that the preview is not there anymore, and if I select it, it's also not getting highlighted in green. I will activate the preview again, so just so you can see how it's usually going. But there's a different mode in Grasshopper that I can activate by selecting this green cylinder up top here. And once I do this, you will see that there's nothing being previewed. And now everything that only the things that I select in Grasshopper get previewed in Rhino. So this can also be very helpful if you have a lot of geometry and you would usually want them to be displayed. So you activate all of their previews by right-clicking and activating the preview. However, sometimes you really just need one or two specific geometries, so you can simply select the preview geometry for, you can select the option to only draw preview geometry for selected objects, and then you will only see these specific previews. So to recap, this is our canvas, our infinite playground for Grasshopper. We have a lot of components up top that we can either place by clicking on the specific icon in our component bar, and then clicking again to place it on the canvas, or we can double click our canvas and enter the name of the specific component that we want. We can connect components by dragging the wire from any output to any input, and we can disconnect wires by hitting Command or Control on a Windows PC and basically connecting them again. We can add relays to our wires by double-clicking on a wire, and if we want to delete our relays again, we can simply double-click again and our relays will be gone. And these will come in handy later when we have more complex Grasshopper definitions that help us to stay organized. Make sure that on your display settings, you disconnect or you disable draw icons. You enable draw fancy wires. This is also something that will come in later. And you activate draw full names, just for you to have the most clarity of what you're doing and to make sure that you're that you always know what the specific components do. And remember, in the view, activate obscure components, just to also have a bit more of the most common components available at the top. That's it for this very quick overview. If you have any questions, you can leave them as a comment, and I will see you in the next video.